Well, hey friends, welcome to Rugged Outdoors Guide. My name is Pete. You've stumbled across my channel, and that's a good thing, because I'm going to teach you something today. I'm going to teach you something that people have been asking me a lot about lately, and that is, what footwear would I recommend for a wilderness canoe trip or kayaking, whatever, where you've got a portage and travel some distance, multi-day trips, all right? Now, I'm not just going to tell you what I recommend. We have an article about that, but we also are going to talk about what I personally wear. Do I wear one of these? I don't think so. We're going to talk about what I do wear, why I wear it. Stay tuned. We'll get into it right now. All right, so the first thing you got to understand is that almost every outdoor sport has its own footwear. You've got, windsurfing and hiking and kayaking and canoeing. The list kind of goes on. There's a lot of different ones. And not only that, but what do you do at different times of the year? Late autumn is much different than midsummer in terms of footwear for canoeing, for example. All right, so those are important considerations and things to understand. I don't buy the latest of everything for everything. Who can do that? It's too expensive and it's unnecessary. So let's talk about what I wear. Okay, just before I tell you exactly what I wear, I need you to understand that what I like to wear are footwear that can be used for different things. All right, so like casual hiking, it'd be nice to have a pair of shoes that you can use for that, as well as, say, canoeing, all right? Or in the autumn, what would I wear on a fall day or on a canoe trip for 4 days in the wilderness in the middle of October in Canada here? Or what would I wear hiking on an afternoon, for example, through a forest trail like where I am now? All right, so those happen to be the same footwear. All right, so I'm a little bit frugal that way, but I think, in my own opinion anyway, I've got it narrowed down to the best of both worlds in virtually every scenario that normal people would want to go canoeing. Typically, we're talking midsummer, or maybe any time from May till October, in anywhere from the northern U.S. to all of Canada, and even in the warmer parts of the U.S., for example. I've got you covered. Okay, what about the scenario where you've got relatively warm weather? Okay, so May, June, July, August, even September, and you're portaging, but it's relatively easy. Okay, we're not talking rocky mountains and big hills. Relatively easy portages that are kind of a flat trail. In that case, there are a number of shoes. Okay, Merrell has a great version for mild terrain, I would call it, all right? No big steep rocks or cliffs or wet terrain, but something relatively easy, like a flat trail. Hydro Mock. A Merrell Hydro Mock is a great option. I have my own version right here. These are from a company called Ascent, or at least that's the brand. I don't know if it's the company. These are kind of like more of a dollar store version, but I wear them almost everywhere I go where I'm not into like really major, serious, rough terrain. These are made of Croc material, but they fit very tight. Like, see, they have a heel on them and a tightening strap on here, and they fit much tighter to your foot than the sort of the bulky quality to a Croc. All right, these are not bulky. They fit tight to your feet, but they have that Croc-esque feel to them. If your terrain is a little bit tougher and rougher, I have a better option, and I kind of use these for almost everything because there's no bad scenario or condition for these. We're talking closed toe, rough, tough rubber and a tougher sole. We're not talking about anything that looks or acts like a Croc now. Now we're talking something more like a Teva would have these. That would probably be your biggest name in closed toe sandals. I don't have a specific brand that I would recommend. I'm just showing you what I use right here. Honestly, these are no-name brand hiking sandals with a really tough rubber toe enclosure, but they're fairly light and they will put up with just about any terrain, including steeper, wet rocks, slipperier area. These things grip a lot better, so this is my number one go-to. One note here before I move on, I just talked about these two, this Croc-style sandal, and they're the Teva or Keen style sandal here. Both are good, except for these being a little bit better for tougher and rougher terrain, slipperier terrain. But these ones will dry much faster. In fact, they spend probably no more than a minute on a sunny summer day being wet, even if you walk right through the water. These, because they often have a nylon or even a canvasy type of sort of supporting structure here, even if it's this one is sort of like a neoprene mixed with nylon. It's great. That's why I wear it all the time. It's my number one, but it's not going to dry quite as fast. You're going to want to have, you know, an hour or more in the bright sun to dry it off if dryness is a value to you, right? So that's all I say about these two options. All right, next, cold weather and or blister prevention. Now for colder weather, I use these guys. These are actual hiking shoes. They're supposed to be waterproof. This one is from Scarpa, and it's got the standard Vibram soles that good hikers will have. So this is my go-to for colder weather for sure. If you're really concerned about blisters as well, yeah, I would go for this. The only thing I wouldn't recommend for this is just, you know, trudging right through the water up to your shins and that kind of thing. It'll take a lot longer to dry. While we're on the topic of colder weather, something that I do not use, and I probably won't, but it's an option. There are socks out there. I'll probably have some cutaways here, and there's also a link in the description below. They're actually socks that are meant to be worn in the water. They look like sort of black wool socks. They kind of, you know, they can be up to your knees. The only thing is with them is that because they have a liner in them, which is supposed to make them waterproof. That's kind of the good news. The bad news is that the liner will also prevent really efficient breathing of your skin. So you might even get a little bit damp, if not outright wet, even if you're not walking in the water. So I'm a little bit, I'm not sure what I think about those. I do know somebody who swears by them, who loves them, who wears them with open-toed sandals. Yeah, I don't know about that. That's something that I would probably pass on, but some of you guys might be thrilled with it. Okay, this brings me to probably the most controversial of all footwears, I mean in my world anyway, and that is open-toed hiking sandals. And we're talking about, like, there are some really good brands out there. You know, Keen makes a good one, Wind River makes a good one. Probably the most famous is Teva. Teva has tons of really high quality hiking sandals, open-toed. I do have an opinion about them, and it comes from about 30 years of hiking through the wilderness. I don't like them because open toes just kind of leave you vulnerable for all sorts of things. Not only potential injury on something, but probably more likely just irritation from rocks and sticks and gravel and sand that gets in between the sandal itself and my big toe. All right, it happens all the time. Not as much anymore because I don't wear them very much. But I guess the only time I would wear them, this is my opinion, the only time I would wear them would be maybe on a day trip where I'm not doing any portaging. Then it's no big deal, right? Still, having said that, these are my go-to footwear kind of these Croc-esque water shoes when I'm not portaging, if I'm just doing a day trip. So this is probably what will be on my feet. But I guess if I didn't have these, then potentially, yeah, I could see myself wearing open-toed hiking sandals, even great quality ones like from Teva, which can cost whatever, like between $50 and $100, maybe even more. I haven't even checked the prices lately. But yeah, that's what I would use them for, just local kind of stuff. I wouldn't bring them on a long, you know, protracted time frame canoe trip, like even 3 days or more. Anyway, that's my opinion. You asked for it. Well, you didn't ask for it, but you're here now, so you're getting it. All right, so I do have one other option for you that might work for you if you have the budget. It's from a company, or the brand is Native, right there, Native. A lot of you know it because it is a fairly well-known brand, all right? I stumbled across these. I got a good deal at a second-hand shop, but these would fit into the same category as these, all right? This is the Croc material. This is very similar, maybe it's a little bit different, but I would put it in the same category as a Croc. The difference being that this would fit your foot tighter, just like this one does. It's kind of a fashiony looking thing too. It looks like I think the old style Chuck Taylor basketball shoes from the 1950s. That's kind of the look it's going for. But aside from that, it can be just as good as this for hiking if it fits you well and is comfortable. This will give me blisters after a short time, all right? That's just how, mosquitoes. That's just how it works for me, all right? So this one is more comfortable. If this one is really comfortable for you and you don't mind the price on it, then yeah, I mean, it's got breathing holes for ventilation, as well as water can come in and out. So it's not bad if it fits you comfortably. That's the key. This one doesn't so much, so I'll pass on this. I'll keep this more for a fashion statement than you know, a canoe hiking shoe. Okay, a couple other quick mentions here about a few other potential footwear options that you may have thought of and I may or may not recommend. First one here is just a plain old sneaker, all right? Running shoe. These are great, they're comfortable, they protect your feet well. The problem is that they don't dry quickly at all. It'll take you days if they ever dry. On a typical trip, they won't dry at all. If you get these totally wet, walking in the water, and your trip is like 5 days long, especially if you've got, you know, sketchy weather, these are never gonna dry. So they can be a little bit uncomfortable when they're wet, and worst of all, they're gonna stink, all right? So I just don't wear these at all when I go on canoe trips. It's just the way it is. The other question that people ask me about is these guys, flip-flops, all right? Honestly, guys, flip-flops I would keep for nothing other than walking around camp, all right? So walking around camp, that brings us to the next issue, and that is, what do you wear around camp? Well, what I wear around camp is what I wear everywhere else. I love those closed-toed hiking sandals, but I don't have a problem. If you have room in your pack for a flip-flop like this or a plain old Croc, go for it. Go for it, because they are comfortable, admittedly, and you don't really need anything other than comfort when you're at your campsite. So I know that that's a big thing for some people. Honestly, guys, I've been canoeing and camping for like, well, right around 40 years, maybe a little bit more actually. And during that time, I have never seen the need for a special shoe for the campsite. All right, I wear the shoes that I wear during the day at my campsite because I don't do a lot of walking. In fact, I often go barefoot. And but if it's a little bit kind of rough, or if there's any sort of broken glass or whatever from previous campers, yeah, then I'll throw on a pair of the shoes that I wear everywhere else. So anyway, that's just how I do things, but I totally get it. If you want to wear a pair of Crocs, or you can wear a pair of sneakers like I just showed you, but they're kind of heavy and I wouldn't bother. I would just have a pair of, you know, Crocs or open-toed sandals. All right, I have one last thing before I let you go. If you have a big budget, you can get shoes. I don't even have a sample here because I don't own any, but we're talking sort of like Amphibious shoes. They look like sneakers, like running shoes, but they are meant for the outdoors. They're water oriented. So an example would be from Salomon. They probably have the best options for that because they're all about off-road kind of shoes. Like, so trail running shoes would be an example, but I think they're called Amphibious shoes, or whatever. The word Amphibious seems to be in there somewhere, and they are they're meant to go into the water. I'm not sure how quickly they dry. I don't know. I'm not going to do a review on them because I'm not rich enough to afford those when I'm not going to use them. Those, we're talking like between $80 to several $100s. So anyway, if you have the budget, they're certainly, they can fit into your portfolio of of canoeing shoes. And I would say that they would be for maybe colder weather. Maybe if you don't have to go in the water, maybe don't. Maybe wear a pair of water socks, like actual stockings with them, the kind I mentioned earlier, like that are supposed to be worn in the water. So guys, the options are many. All right, so I just told you what I wear, and I will just give you a really quick rundown one more time of what I actually, for real, bring with me on a canoe trip. All right, guys, just to summarize, I'll show you exactly what I bring with me in, well, actually, I'll cover pretty much the entire year other than the dead of winter. And we'll start with cold weather. So cold weather, I bring my hikers. These are actually insulated hikers. These are from Scarpa, as I mentioned, but it really doesn't matter. Whatever you have, or whatever fits you well and is comfortable and that you can afford, that's what I would go for. So these have a tough toe on them. So they're great for actually hiking and kind of bashing your way through a wilderness trail or no trail at all. And so they do have some insulation for warmth, but I would couple them with a pair of warm wool socks, for example, and I would do my best not to trudge through the water. I find I can do that if I'm very, very deliberate. I can actually pull into a shallow area that in the summertime I would just jump out of my canoe and walk it up to the shore and whatever. But if I'm a little more careful, I can kind of shimmy my canoe and kind of move myself around in the canoe where I don't have to walk in the water at all. All right, so I'm one of the few people that I know of that will be deliberate that way. I've been criticized and laughed at by some of my colleagues, and they're like, I'm always walking in the water, Well, whatever, that's fine. No criticism return. You can do whatever you want. I happen to like really dry feet all the time if I can get it, right? So I'll wear these on cooler weather trips. So in April, May, and then probably mid-October and onwards, even into November. On occasion, I'll find myself in a canoe. This is what I got on my feet. Now, if I am walking around at the camp itself, I probably still will wear these, right? Because it's cold out. So the only exception might be potentially, I will actually bring a backup, and that is if these somehow get destroyed or lost, I will have a backup, and my backup is either a pair of sneakers or more likely these guys, right? These foam Croc type sandals which fit tightly. I can wear them with a pair of socks, and that's what I'll deal with if I, actually lose these or something like that. All right, so that's one scenario. Another scenario is during the warmer weather, and during warm weather, I already told you my number one go-to, which is these guys, closed-toed hiking sandals, and as I mentioned, Keen or Teva are good options. Wind River is another one. These happen to be no name brand, but again, they work for me. And then I'll have these again as my, not only as a backup, but maybe a camp shoe potentially, because they dry really quickly and these don't dry as quickly. So guys, that is pretty much it. Warm weather, cool weather, that's what I bring with me. I showed you a few other samples because I have them. There are a few other options which I don't have and I won't get because I don't really need them and they're really expensive. All right, so anyways, I hope that that has helped you in some way. That might have been a longer video than necessary to give you the information, but yeah, well, if you know me, that's kind of me. Thank you for sticking in there with me. Guys, if you like this kind of stuff, please do give me a like and a subscribe. As you know, it doesn't cost you anything and it's no skin off your back. It's just a quick click and you're subscribed and you'll get notifications for my videos. Sometimes I come out with these videos every week. I try to. There are times when it's a couple of months. But in any case, it's going to be good stuff. So I appreciate your likes and subscribes, and I will promise to strive to give you the best, most useful information out there on whatever topic I choose to talk about. All right, guys, thanks again. Get out there, guys, enjoy God's creation. Really, do it. And above all else, keep on looking up. Guys, in case you're wondering, I'm sure you're not, but this ain't glamorous. I'm here in the middle of a forest in southern Ontario. Believe me, there's forests in southern Ontario too, even though that's where all the population in Ontario lives. This is I'm right here on the edge of a roaring river down there. I don't know if you can see it. It's right all in, there's the strip right down there. And it's like a cliff to get down there. And I can't really do any paddling on there right now because I don't do that kind of paddling. I need a playboat, a kayak to navigate that thing. But mosquitoes here are crazy. This is a little town called Jordan, right where I live, and really a great place, really a nice looking place and beautiful hiking territory. But this is a behind the scenes look. Look, I got to talk about all these shoes, and I'm wearing two different shoes. Crazy, crazy. There is my main camera. Some of you actually want to know what I use. It's an older camera. It's an SL2 Rebel from Canon, but man, it works great. And then there's my notes down there. Yes, I have a cheat sheet. Wow, surprise, surprise. Sheesh. All right, let me put the same pair of shoes on my feet so I can get going here.